Mrs. McKelvey back with the next chapter of The Princess and the Goblin. Today's chapter is chapter 17, and it's called Springtime. The spring, so dear to all creatures young and old, came at last. And before the first few days of it had gone, the king rode through its budding valleys to see his little daughter. He had been in a distant part of his dominions all the winter, for he was not in the habit of stopping in one great city or of visiting only his favorite country houses. But the king moved from place to place so that all his people might know him. Wherever he journeyed, the king kept a constant lookout for the ablest and best men to put into office. And wherever he found himself mistaken, and those he had appointed incapable or unjust, he removed them at once. Hence you see that it was his care for the people that kept him from seeing his princess so often as he would have liked. You may wonder why he didn't take her around with him, but there were several reasons against him doing so, and I suspect her great-great-grandmother had a principal hand in preventing it. Once more Irene heard the bugle blast, and once more she was at the gate to meet her father as he rode up on his great white horse. After they had been alone for a little while, she thought of what she had resolved to ask him. "Please, King Papa," she said, "will you tell me where I got this pretty ring? I can't remember." The king looked at it. A strange, beautiful smile spread like sunshine over his face, and an answering smile, but at the same time a questioning one, spread like moonlight over Irene's. "It was your queen mamma's once," he said. "And why isn't it hers now?" asked Irene. "She does not want it now," said the king, looking grave. "Why doesn't she want it now?" "Because she's gone where all those rings are made." "And when shall I see her?" asked the princess. "Not for some time yet," answered the king, and the tears came into his eyes. Irene did not remember her mother and did not know why her father looked so sad and why the tears came to his eyes. But she put her arms around his neck and kissed him and asked him no more questions. The king was much disturbed on hearing the report of the gentlemen-at-arms concerning the strange creatures they had seen. And I presume the king would have taken Irene with him that very day, but for what the presence of the ring on her finger assured him of. About an hour before he left, Irene saw the king go up the old stair, and he did not come down again till they were just ready to start out. And she thought to herself that he had been up to see the old lady. When he went away, he left 6 more gentlemen behind him, that there might be 6 of them always on guard. And now, in the lovely spring weather, Irene was out on the mountain the greater part of the day. In the warmer hollows, there were lovely primroses, and not so many that she ever got tired of them. As often as she saw a new one opening up from a light in the blind earth, she would clap her hands with gladness, and unlike some children I know, instead of picking it, she would touch it as tenderly as if it had been a new baby. And having made its acquaintance, she would leave it happy as she had found it. She treated the plants on which they grew like birds' nests. Every fresh flower was like a new little bird to her. She would pay visits to all the flower nests she knew, remembering each one. She would go down on her hands and knees beside one and say, "Good morning. Are you all smelling very sweet this morning? Goodbye." And then she would go to another nest and say the same. It was a favorite game for her. There were many flowers up and down, and she loved them all, but the primroses were her favorite. "They're not too shy, and they're not a bit forward," she would say to Ludi. There were goats about too over the mountain. And when the little kids came, she was pleased with them as she was with the flowers. The goats belonged to the miners mostly, a few of them to Curdy's mother. But there were a good many wild ones that seemed to belong to nobody. These the goblins considered to be theirs, and it was upon them partly that the goblins lived. They set their snares and dug pits for them, and did not worry about taking what tame ones happened to be caught. But they did not try to steal them in any other way, because they were afraid of the dogs the hill people kept to watch over the goats. For the knowing dogs always tried to bite the goblins' feet. But the goblins had a kind of sheep of their own, very strange creatures, which they drove out to feed at night. And the other goblin creatures were wise enough to keep good watch over them, for they know that they should be dinner by and by. And that's the end of that chapter. Well, I really liked the King Papa's plan for taking care of his country. The way that he traveled around and he visited all the people, and then he would look for good people to set up in charge of places while he was gone. And then even more impressive is that when he found someone that had been chosen wrongly, that they were either not good at their jobs or that they were not good people, the king would remove them from that job. So I think this king must have been a really, really good king. That's your thinking challenge for today. I'd like for you to think about the king and to think about what would make a good leader. And think about all the characteristics or all the things that you think a good leader should be. And I'd like to challenge you to make as long a list as you can of characteristics of a good leader. Well, that's it for this time. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.